Hello and welcome to Essential Racing Strategies. Get those penciled out and sharpen them up. It's class time. What is Essential Racing Strategies and what is it all about? This is a video series dedicated to helping racers improve their ability to race against other drivers in Gran Turismo Sport Mode. Last time on ERS, we talked about your weekly objectives as a B-ranked driver. Episode 6, which is coming up next, will be on the mentality you should attempt to have in B-rated lobbies. But today is episode 5. Since you should already have your weekly objectives prepared, as we talked about in episode 4, now it is time to focus on what your top priority is as a B-ranked driver. Perhaps this will come as a surprise, or perhaps not. But that's right, friends. Staying on track is still your top priority. As we mentioned in the previous episode, I consider the B lobbies to be the trenches of GT7. Getting out of B and staying in A was so hard even for myself. I'm now using my alternate unleaded pencil account to gain fresh experiences in these B lobbies that many of you are having right now. All the racing footage that you see us using as examples come from those races that I have been a part of. So yes, this is the same objective as episode 2 when we talked about E through C ranked drivers. It may feel like the primary objective now should be to go faster than everybody else. And I understand that. I really do. Everyone else keeps getting faster. But I will show you that this can't be the top priority for B-rated lobbies. Why is this the case? Well, being the fastest cannot be the top priority because of these 3 key factors. The fastest person doesn't always finish high in the B-rated lobbies, but the drivers with the fastest overall times do. The fastest qualifying time doesn't always morph into automatic race wins. Perhaps you yourself have noticed this. Too often, folks are trying to perform their fastest lap every lap during the race. What this leads to is taking the car beyond its limits. Slides, spins, crashes are the inevitable results. You can be different by achieving that comfortable, repeatable pace that we have mentioned here multiple times now. Another reason this isn't the top priority is your competition is still quite inconsistent and making critical mistakes on a regular basis. By running your race in a comfortable, repeatable way, you aren't making those critical errors, and you can take positions that people are actually just gifting you, either because they're making mistakes that are costing them tenths, or committing bigger errors that are costing them many seconds. Also, many of the drivers at this level, once they get past, they're looking to get that position back at all costs and doing it as quickly as possible. This leads them to make costly mistakes at worst, but at best, they are just driving quite poorly in their haste to catch up. There can be a sense of urgency to get those places back that really is unnecessary. Often the result is losing more positions rather than gaining any back. Overall, these factors cost other drivers valuable time on track, and poorer finishes are often the result. You do not have to be one of those B-ranked drivers. By staying on track more than your competitors, by facing the right direction more than your competitors, by sliding and spinning less than your competitors, you will inevitably finish higher than multiple of your fellow racers every time you accomplish these goals. Add to this that some weeks in the dailies, you might not be able to be very fast. If you're not fast, does that mean bad finishes are inevitable for you? I would suggest not. To move up the rankings in B lobbies, staying on track must be your top priority, your primary objective. But in B-rated lobbies, how do we accomplish this? You will certainly be taking along the things you learned from episode 2 when we discussed this same strategy. However, we will see several additions and heightened skill levels required to accomplish this in B-rated lobbies on a regular basis. Applying these strategies to your racecraft will greatly aid you in achieving that coveted A ranking. First, we're talking about staying on track by defending your position, making one move entering into corners. Make the one move as early as possible. If you are moving multiple times while approaching a corner, you are increasing the likelihood of a driver hitting you from behind. This is especially true when moving under braking. If the driver behind you is aggressive, then it is even more likely that they will plow into you as they attempt to pass. Next, we want to talk about staying on track by making calculated attempts to pass. Be passively smart and opportunistic. By passively smart, we mean don't be overly aggressive in the race. Wait for your competitors to have a bad entrance into or exit out of a corner. As a B-rank driver, controlling the car is becoming easier for you, but mastery has not taken place yet. Don't make moves that make it difficult for you to control your car. Next, we want to stay on track more by recognizing faster drivers and avoiding battling them. If someone is quicker than you in your rearview mirror and they catch you, don't necessarily needlessly battle them. Let them pass. This is especially true in the first laps or early laps of a race. Fighting a faster driver can work sometimes, but if you can see on the delta that they are rapidly catching up to you, it is likely wiser to let them pass and then try to keep pace with them as they get in front of you. The only caveat to this, I would say, is that if it's the last lap or two and you believe you have a chance of keeping them behind you to hold your position, then I would suggest go for it. But in those earlier laps, I think it's better to let them go by without slowing yourself down. And that's the true thing. Holding them up is actually holding you up as well, and you're costing yourself time that you might want to have had later in the race. Also, we're talking about staying on track by identifying dirty drivers and or drivers that are struggling to control their cars and maintain your distance. Once you identify these folks, and you can identify them pretty easily by how they're driving. Not every driver that is hitting someone is dirty, but you want to see whether they're dirty or just having difficulty with their car. You want to make sure that you stay away from them. This might mean even not passing them or delaying an attempt to pass. So here we have a case of where I'm approaching a fellow racer and I'm just looking for a spot to get by. He's doing a good job of putting his car and positioning it well, so there's not really opportunity. However, you'll see here he gets a little wiggle there, and then coming into the long straight here, he ends up just not quite getting the right exit, and I get a better one. So I go onto the right side, and at this point you see that he has beaten me twice here. This should have been an indicator for me of what he was all about. So let's just show for the fact that he really wasn't inclined to allow me to pass under any circumstances. So he moves over to the right once, straightens, moves over to the right again, giving me no space. Now, it's at this point that I should have realized, oh, you know what? I don't need to pass him right now. It's not worth it. So we bung doors a little bit more. He's still turning into me at this point. Turning into me here again. And so at this point, I'm thinking, oh man, I might actually be clear. But the truth is, no, not so. He, in fact, gets one more good lick on me. And he doesn't come out unscathed, but as you'll see, for me, I am out for the count. This is a case where I did not correctly adjust to the driving of somebody else and their obvious intentions to slam me. And the result was losing many positions in this case. I did not read the man's intentions well. So in this scenario here, it's not a case of dirty driving exactly. It's a case of, okay, we have 4 cars that are rather close together, and I'm looking for opportunity to identify who here has any difficulty controlling their vehicles. Well, what I'm really seeing is all 4 of them are having difficulty, especially driving close. We see right there the one in the Lamborghini, he's already gone too deep. and he had a 1-second pen anyway. So right now they're hitting each other, and I'm not really trying to get too close. Now I took a little advantage here and got by the Porsche, although he did like maybe have second thoughts about letting me pass. He gave me a little nudge there on the side. And so I've already seen enough from these two that they're not quite in control of their vehicles. I am really not trying to drive too closely to these folks. So even here, I'm not diving in, not trying to dive bomb them or anything. Just want to hang back here, be in control of my car, and wait for the opportunity. And the truth is, I see a half-second penalty, so I know there's at least one there. However, both of these individuals, with their difficulty in controlling the vehicle, we'll stop it here for a second, are going to make a mistake here, both of them, the same mistake. And by me staying a little bit behind them, a little bit farther back, and also making this next apex, I end up taking 2 for 1 right here. And 911 actually loses control a little bit and does give me a little bit of damage, but I still had more momentum than they did, so all is well. And that's an example of just identifying some folks that maybe don't have all the control of the vehicle that one might expect, and just giving space, waiting for the opportunity, and the opportunity came. Also, we're talking about today staying on track by not taking unnecessary risks. You might have noticed this, but every track has what we like to call risky sections. Some tracks have more risky sections than others, but it is wise for you as you practice laps, definitely take the time to go over the track's sectors and identify where the most risks lie. For example, take Sardinia Road Track, which I consider to really have only one risky section in the whole thing. Here's at that top spot right there. On the track itself, it shows up as this, which you can see is a high-speed left-hander after a right-hander. You got to get the timing just right, otherwise you can end up hitting the inside wall or the outside wall or clipping the grass and spinning. During a race, it's just not worth it to take it too hard because you end up losing positions, get damaged, dirty tires, the whole works. And then there's a track like Dragon Trail, which to me has risks all over the place. I would identify all of these points on this track as risks, especially the death chicane. It may be necessary to take some of those risks when attempting to get a good qualifying time. In fact, it often is. But taking those same risks while in a race is usually unnecessary and leads to wrecks and poorer finishes. Now let's give an example of exactly what not to do, using myself as that example. Here I am in a P3, and I know that the riskiest section in this track is the death chicane. I have no one close behind me. All I have to do is get through this and be fine. But what do? Instead of taking it conservatively, I decide, oh no, I'm going for the fastest lap. I want to get a great time is what I want to do. And it was totally unnecessary. I'm in third. I have a podium in check right here in this B-rated lobby after starting from further back in the grid. And do I risk it or not? I should not have, but instead I go for it and face left on a right, on a straight rather. I lose 1, 2, 3, 4 positions, and then another one, and then a couple more. Not worth it. Not worth the risk, in my opinion. I do get one back from someone else spinning, but then this guy ends up with more exit speed than I, so I go from third all the way to ninth, all because I was too stubborn in the death chicane to not take it conservatively. Not worth it. Finally, what could be the most important aspect to moving up in the rankings is a principle that we've discussed before, but there are going to be some key differences this time. You'll recognize it. Here it is. We need to stay on track by protecting the apex as if your life depended on it. Yes, friends, we are being serious. Like your life depends on it. For B-rank drivers that are having a difficult time moving up in the rankings, this might be the most critical. After racing a lot in the B-rated lobbies in my unleaded pencil account and watching other racers in B lobbies, I really see that this is essentially the case. The time for casually approaching corners and not responding to racers behind you is over. People are going to try to pass you, and the primary way that they're going to attempt to pass you is with the dive, or with the dive bomb, whichever way you want to call it. Look, there are many ways to pass cleanly, and there are probably videos coming from me in the future about the multiple ways to get a pass done. But there are few B-rank drivers that are accomplishing clean passes. And that's probably because the dive is the quickest way to get a pass done, but it also has the greatest potential to go wrong. Many who are attempting the dive go too deep into the corner and hit the person that they're trying to pass on the side, making it not very clean. And at worst, it's downright dirty. How many times, I wonder, have you personally taken a turn only to find a car on your inside that you had no idea was even capable of being there? What this is showing us is that if that is happening, it means we need to implement a higher awareness of the cars around us, specifically behind us. What are they doing? How do I need to situate my car so they do not dive bomb me and possibly even hit me off track, causing me to wreck, causing me to spin? Even more dangerous than perhaps a dirty driver is a person who hasn't really mastered the control of their car. If that's the case, you will end up being a victim of a bump to pass or push to pass. And sometimes these folks that dive like this, they don't care if they hit you off. They will go on their merry way. The only way to circumvent these things from happening to you is to protect the apex. To vigorously and alertly protect the apex. If you believe that you are evenly matched with someone who is aiming to pass, protect the apex. If it is the last lap or close to it and a very fast driver is coming up on you, protect the apex. Listen, if you haven't really mastered the art of protecting the apex since the last time we talked about it, it is time to do so. Make sure if someone ends up hitting you on the apex of a corner, it is on your tail end and not on your side. Make sure if someone does pass you in a corner, it's because they actually managed to do it around the outside and not on your inside. As much as is possible, avoid being on the outside of someone on a turn. It is time to get very comfortable with and more skilled at driving off the racing lines. What do we mean by driving off the racing line? Well, there are many occasions in a race where you have to be off the racing line to defend. There's slower traffic ahead. This situation right here provides a great example of that. I'm about to serve a half-second pen. The G70 in front is about to serve a second and a half pen. And then I have this guy about to serve no pen at all. So in order to preserve my position, I'm going to stay on the inside here. I'm going to end up catching the G70. So it actually prevents me from taking the racing line at this point. Let's step back here, though, and see our friend, who's in P8 right now. We'll let it roll. He swoops around them. But now he has carried more momentum than me because he's not served a pen. He's at 128 miles per hour. I'm at 117. So what I end up having to do is take this rather quick right turn off the optimal line, but still maintain the position. What does this mean I'm going to have to do? I'm going to have to be slower through the corner. So let's watch how this plays out. I brake a little bit early. I turn a little bit more. And look what's happened. I'm at 93 miles per hour going into the turn. And so is he, because he's having to adjust to my position. Now he's hoping, of course, to be able to take a spot on the inside on the next corner. He does carry a little bit more speed. He's at 98. I'm at 94. But I'm back on the racing line now, and he's trying to go for a dive, except I'm really not going to give the room there. And he wisely doesn't go for it either. And so I end up keeping the position and actually gaining a position because of the other person actually serving that 1.5 second pen. Here's a case where I am actually not having to protect the apex as much as I gain the inside line, but it still demonstrates how to race off the normal optimal racing line. We have our Lamborghini friend here. I'm on the inside, going towards a turn that is relatively higher speed, although it's almost a full 180 degrees that we're about to turn. What this requires is me getting to the apex sooner, being more patient to get on the throttle. Now, of course, this always allows for the opportunity for your competitor to do a switcheroo on you. But if you get it right, you may end up obtaining the position. So I brake a little bit earlier than he does, as you just saw. He gives a wide berth, trying to gain that momentum. We go to the apex. We don't go too deep. That's really key. So I'm sacrificing speed on the entry of the corner so that we don't end up going too deep and then really compromising our exit. Continue to roll through. No drama going on the exit there. And yes, the Lamborghini does get a good run. We'll go ahead and watch this play out for a second. So just to complete the story here, we'll look and see how things happen afterwards on this lap 2. There's a lot of bumping going on. I don't really have much room to do anything, but I'm really just hanging back trying to get the exit. And you see that no one's giving each other a lot of room. I'm right there, but perhaps the Huracan driver didn't see me there. And look how close these are. So I just, we'll give the example here of giving yourself space. There is very little room between these three right now. And so different braking points, turn-in points, they're not giving themselves enough of a chance to react to each other. Meanwhile, I am positioned out here on purpose, waiting to see how this will transpire. More contact. That, I'm not sure if that's netcode or deliberate. Not really an issue for us. He just pushes him right out of the way. Get a little bump from behind. Yeah, he's turning the entire time, but I guess did not see us there on the outside. And so he ends up losing control and going off. And now we have gained all those positions minus P7 right there. And so we see a little bit of action there. How we've protected the apex a couple times. We've successfully raced off the racing line, sacrificing speed in spots where necessary. In the end, we come out on top of the others. Before we get to our key points to drive home, I have got to show you an example of someone putting all of the things that we have talked about today in practice to stay on track and inevitably finish higher than many of his competitors. We're hopping on board with our good friend RSR Nugs, also known as Nuganetics. He's a huge supporter of our channel, and he regularly comments about how the Essential Racing Strategies has helped him. And I asked him permission to put this in the next episode, and he graciously said yes. And so I was watching this race actually live when he was streaming. Be sure to check Nuganetics out too if you get a chance, and give him a sub. So we're at the beginning of the race here. We're seeing him come through, and starting in 5th position, and cold tires, right? Mediums. And so he does what many people would do here, which is get on the power a little early and gets a bad exit. And he saves it, and that does allow Pookie to get by. Now, this could be a spiral effect, but we really don't see anybody else close to him either. So really, his eyes can stay forward on the objectives ahead. We have a nice train of cars here. Things are tightening up a little bit ahead. And so we're starting to see some folks battling side by side, which is slowing each other down, which is really going to create a lot of uncertainty as to what's coming up here. So you can see the Ferrari up ahead in P2, he's gone off the track. He's going a lot slower. Viking Racer, good friend of the channel also, and Skipper were just side by side, and Pookie and Nugs are getting close together. Which means by this point, everybody is very close. Now, we have Nugs going full throttle here, but did you see that little lift that he just did? While there's contact up ahead, it doesn't look like Nugs really hits anyone. So he's given himself enough of a chance to react to what's going to happen, and he gets a position because of it. Coming up to here, we have Pookie and Viking Racer. Shout out to Viking Racer, always happy to have him come by and say hi as well to our channel. Really great guy, appreciate him very much. We see here Nugs coming in and taking advantage on the inside of Pookie. Here is an instance where Nugs is not on the racing line, and he does not have the full width of the track to deal with. What he does, there's a little bit of contact, but I would put that on Pookie as basically turned into him. But here Nugs is in position to have a really good finish. But the drama is not over, because Pookie is driving very well, he's very fast, and he's attempting to get this position back. He gets a great run out of this turn here, which it appears, we'll see how Nugs reacts. At the moment, he's not making much of a move. Pookie ends up not really getting on the inside, but what Nugs does really well here is he turns in just a slight bit early to cover the apex, just in case Pookie had any ideas. And so no drama there. Nugs braking at the right time here, making sure he doesn't go too deep, protecting that apex. You see his right tires are actually on the yellows, giving no room for Pookie to get something on the inside. Nugs goes a little bit wide there, a tremendous opportunity for Pookie, but he does come in and gets the little look, where as there wasn't much room, in fact, so Nugs is able to close that off. And if you were to hear Nugs in the live stream at this point, he keeps saying over and over again, all windows and doors are closed, sir. Nugs is committed to protecting the apex and making sure that there is no opportunity. He has correctly identified that P5 is someone who is going for the dive, trying to get by, not by a better exit, but by just diving, and Nugs is having none of it. Coming out of Banky Boy, and P5 here gets a good run coming out of the turn and is right up on Nugs. Now, Nugs just gives a little, look at that early move to the left. The early move to the left gives Pookie no opportunity even to get on his inside. This is a phenomenal move. This is making one move into the corner, making it very clear your intentions. This is making sure that Pookie really has no opportunity to try and nip underneath him here. Also still taking a narrow line here just to make sure that there's no opportunity for him to get on the inside. Here we're going to see him getting very close and get a little bit impatient. So Nugs is on the inside. You see he's still covering the inside. Pookie on the outside. Now look at this move here, which is a late move on Pookie's part, where he tries to do a dive right here. Now this may have caught Nugs off guard a little bit, but what happens? All that ends up happening is Nugs gets hit, and it's a little bit on the side, but not enough to spin him. Why is this? Because Nugs has actually carried enough speed into the corner to cover this apex. Pookie is trying to do a dummy, in a sense, where he's faking right and then going to go left, but the move is too late. And the braking zone really isn't big enough to accomplish that type of move here. So now we have Nugs definitely covering the inside. He understands even more fully the type of driver he's dealing with. And I'm not saying that Pookie is being dirty, really. He's just being aggressive and only trying to pass one or maybe two ways. Okay, so here's another case, another apex coming up, and Nugs, once again, is committed to protecting it. He is actually on the grass and gets hit because Pookie brakes a little bit too late. This does send Nugs a little bit deep, but it actually slows Pookie down, and then Pookie has a moment where he slides. Now there's a little bit of distance here, and we're coming through the fast S's. Nugs is carrying good speed on the outside. Pookie is basically maintaining pace. However, we're going to see a sad end to Pookie's race here. Where he ends up just getting too much grass and dirt and curb and spins out. Viking Racer ended up having a little bit of a poor run through the S's, so Nugs is carrying much more speed. Viking Racer elects to not defend, which is perfectly fine. Nugs comes on the inside. Now he's off the racing line, okay? He's making that move, so he's not going to have the full width of the track to make this turn. Let's see how he handles it. Down to second, Viking Racer also doing a wonderful job. Now this is, from both of these guys, this is perfect. We have Nugs at 65 miles per hour at the apex. We have Viking Racer at 72. The person on the outside is always going to be able to carry speed. It's not always the case that they do. Phenomenal driving by these two friends here. As they come out, they are in fact side by side. Magnificently defended by Viking Racer here. Both doing a tremendous job of controlling their car, being comfortable driving off the racing line. Can't be prouder of these guys, really. This is phenomenal stuff. Skipping all the way to the end, and this is pretty much how it all ends. Viking Racer keeping good pace, Nugs not being overly aggressive, happy with a 4th place because this is going to gain him DR. What we saw here is just great examples of defending one's own position, making one move to enter into corners. Also, Nugs did a great job of staying on track by making calculated attempts to pass. He was opportunistic. He was smart as he approached other vehicles. He didn't needlessly battle when it wasn't required. Viking Racer and him were very much even when it came to pace. There was one opportunity, it didn't come to him, and it was fine, right? Nugs was also able to stay on track by correctly identifying the type of racer that was behind him, what was required of him to maintain his position. While there aren't too many risky sections on this track, what we did find was the Fast S's did a phenomenal job of taking some people out. We saw this more than once. We saw this happen to Pookie. We saw even Viking Racer get a bad exit through there. And at the beginning of the race, we saw the Ferrari go off, and which really created a lot of close racing, which Nugs was able to navigate properly. You know what we didn't see? We didn't see Nugs taking risks through that section. That was a big part of him staying on track through this race. And of course, he protected the apex like his life depended on it. We saw it, right? He did such a phenomenal job of maintaining this position. And I can't think of a better example of someone in the B lobbies right now that is putting all of these things into practice so well. Now, with all this discussed, it is time to get to our key points to drive home. Watch who you can race closely with and who you should avoid racing closely with. There really is quite a spectrum of skill level and malintent in B-rated lobbies. Make sure to identify who is who and act accordingly. Some people are still working on controlling their car and can't really be trusted when close. Others have almost exclusively bad motives when racing. Identify them and make sure to avoid them, even if it means not passing them when you could. Next, become a master at protecting the apex and increase your skill at driving closely to others. This is especially true when you are off the racing line. As we just mentioned, this could be the biggest key to your journey to A rank and beyond in this game. Be able to change gearing and adjust when someone is close to you, maintaining the position you have safely and also avoiding getting hit off track will get you those higher finishes and ultimately the higher rankings you're searching for. And lastly, do not undervalue prioritizing staying on the track. Learning this now will set you up for success when you eventually advance to A rank. And that will do it for this episode of Essential Racing Strategies. Next time we get together, we will discuss once again our mindsets while racing. Racing in B-rated lobbies? Well, it requires a special kind of mental fortitude that you likely haven't needed before. I'm very excited to share those strategies with you. If you happen to be watching this and haven't become a subscriber to the channel, I encourage you to do so that you can stay up to date on all of the future Essential Racing Strategy videos, along with the live streams, shorts, and other videos that we put out on a regular basis. Until then, later friends.